We are fortunate to be a part of FIR community. Thanks to Shell and Neville for featuring Digital India Podcast. The year was 2005. Podcast was the word of the year. Later, in 2006, I attended a conference in Chapel Hill, North Carolina for podcasters. Little did I know that my life would change forever after that. It was one of the biggest milestone event in my life. I was fascinated by the possibilities through podcasting. Till date, I've learned a lot by listening to podcasts. And I would love to see my students and my friends learn and succeed through podcast. This is my team's effort to bring awareness, highlight the digital happenings from India and across the globe. We believe this podcast will help a lot of people succeed in digital landscape. Welcome to Digital India Podcast. My name is Suresh and thank you for listening.
Whoa, that was quite a start, and that was Suresh Babu. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Digital India Podcast on FIR Podcast Network. You are listening to weekly updates from staff and students of Web Marketing Academy, and I am your host Mansi. This show gives you the latest updates in the digital marketing world in India. And we are giving you updates from the last 7 days from the digital marketing world of India. Here are the headlines for this week. The top stories are: Will Maggi noodles from Nestle survive the PR disaster? Remember, Maggi noodles went off the shelf last Friday. We have an awesome tip for all those members who've been struggling with generating content. Stay tuned for that. The second story we're going to cover is about startups in India and how they have spent close to $1 billion in the first quarter of this year. The third story we want to talk about today is Indian startup raising $1 million for video analytics. And before we move on to the detailed stories, I have an awesome tip for you. Now, looking at audience behavior on your website must have been a challenge all throughout. So here is a tool called Crazy Egg. Now this tool provides a heat map so that you can see where your customers are coming from and what they're doing on your site. They say that it is definitely much cheaper but equally effective. It helps you understand the behavior of your audience, which I guess can be used to improve engagement. Well, after this tip, we have detailed stories from India. After the epic PR fail over Maggi, Nestle India ropes in APCO and Shivani Hegde for damage control. Now, Nestle is the multinational consumer goods company in the eye of a storm over excessive lead content in its Maggi noodles. The controversy broke out on 30th April when Lucknow authorities asked Nestle to recall Maggi from the shelves. The tests that they had conducted had revealed excessive lead content and monosodium glutamate, that's MSG. Well, Nestle also had earlier withdrawn its product from the market, and they had also blamed the environment of confusion prevailing in India, with various tests showing varying results. The Swiss food giant was under flack for not communicating enough with stakeholders and consumers, even as several state governments started banning Maggi noodles. However, right now, Nestle seems to be preparing for a massive PR exercise. It has appointed APCO Worldwide to assist it in getting over the negative publicity for Maggi brand and to create a positive opinion among stakeholders. If you're just wondering what APCO is the agency that helped Narendra Modi win over the investor community by changing the image of the Gujarat government post the 2002 communal riots. It is also said that Nestle is recalling Miss Shivani Hegde, a Nestle veteran for about 30 years, to India from Sri Lanka, where she is now the in charge of operation. It was Shivani Hegde who took Maggi to such heights through brand extensions and right marketing strategy. She was posted in Sri Lanka only about 4 months ago, and now she's been recalled to do all the damage control that she can. We still remember that Shivani Hegde had given an interview to Economic Times a while ago, and she had spoken about creating conversations on the digital platforms, a part of company's strategy for Maggi. She had said, our objective is to create relevant content for our consumers. Everything we do on digital is mostly earned media as opposed to paid media. Now, considering the enormous influence of social media, the kind of influence it has among the new generation, it's very, very likely that Shivani Hegde is going to tap its potential to engage the consumer as she starts her brand rebuilding efforts for Maggi. Wow. Now, this story has a lot for all the PR persons out there to learn. Crisis management has always been a tricky and a gray area. Considering the advent of social media, where the word kind of spreads like wildfire, then there's a challenge of communicating across cultures. But as I said, the show must go on. The brands are going to be there. We have to build it. We have to kind of maintain the image. We have to position them right, and we have to communicate to our stakeholders. So the best thing to do is make a list of crises that could hit you and prepare for it. Now, remember, if there's something wrong, I guess it is good to accept it, or at least apologize and say you are making an effort to look into it and correct it. Remember, time is of supreme importance here. While it's good to take time to understand and analyze the situation, make sure that you don't leave a void between, the disaster and your communication. Also, whatever the brand has to communicate has to always come from an authority figure, preferably the spokesperson or the CEO of company. That adds credibility to your communication. Okay, and before we move on to the next news, Suresh Babu is back in our studio. Welcome back, Suresh. Can you please share a tip or a tool with our audience?
This is one of my favorite tools. It is a website where you can get a lot of ideas for content. I know content is one of the biggest challenge. So here is the website. It is called whattowrite.org. whattowrite.org. So you go and put your ideas. It will come up. It will give you some suggestions for your next content creation. So check it out. It's a cool website.
Thank you so much, Suresh. That was Suresh talking about a tool for content creation called What to Write. I hope all those people who are struggling to build content are listening. That's a tool, whattowrite.org. We have the next story for today, and that is about startups in India and how they have absorbed over $1 billion in the first quarter of 2015. Now, what's happened is, for most part, the investors have chased ventures based in India's largest cities. Say Bangalore, then there's Mumbai, then there is Delhi, there's Chennai. There seems to have been a significant increase in digital consumer activity, especially in the last couple of years. More of this is being driven by consumers that is beyond the top 10 cities in India. Now, Karan Mohla, the Executive Director and Head of Digital Consumer Investments, IDG Ventures, he has said that Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are growing faster in terms of their online consumption of goods and services compared to the bigger cities in India. And he has also mentioned that the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are often driving 60 to 70% of transaction of e-commerce companies. Wow, that's quite a bit coming from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. So India is seeing a humongous growth when it comes to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, and thanks to the e-commerce. Considering that there are very less brick and mortar stores, the only way to probably reach out to the brand and buy one is e-commerce portals. Internet penetration is one of the reasons why e-commerce portals seem to be seeing a lot of traffic from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. The next story we have is about video analytics startup Viduli. It has raised close to about $1 million. That's nearly about 6.5 crores from Bessemer Venture Partners. Now, what is it using the money for is that it is trying to step up technology offering and expand into Japan and Middle East. The company came up with a product that helps content creators and channels on YouTube attract more and more viewers for their videos. Now, Viduli also helps companies with a kind of advice, on what keeps people interested in a video and how a competitor's YouTube channel is better, performing much better, or up to the mark when compared to our own, and what is the best time to upload a clip in a particular area. Well, what it does is it also listens to the audio transcripts of videos. It kind of tries to understand the video content and suggest relevant search tags. Now, this Noida-based company has about 2,000 video creators using this platform, out of which they claim that 220 are paying customers. Our very own chef Sanjeev Kapoor is one of them. Ping Digital, Bollywood Hangama are among the content creators on YouTube that use this platform. Wow, that's like top 3 stories from India. And before we end the show, we have another tip coming your way. And today we have with us Monica, who is a full-fledged faculty at WMA. Welcome to our show, Monica.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are specializing in mobile. So is there news for us, for our audience in the mobile sector?
There absolutely is. And I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about Google App Indexing. Google App Indexing came out in February this year, and at that point of time it was only available to Android users. What Google App Indexing does is it allows mobile app developers the ability to engage their users in a better way and also to increase the app installs. So what happens is that, let's say you were searching for the cricket scores during the IPL we just had. Now the scores were also available on Twitter. Now when a user is searching for a score on a particular day, they will see results coming up as links. Right. But other than that, they will also see the Twitter app and maybe another app, if a sports related app they have installed it and it has app indexing integrated into it. It will also see that app and it will see the specific screen within the app which gives them the direct information. So they don't have to go into the app, then go into another screen and search. Basically, it's engaging them so deeply that it takes them to the actual screen within the app. So the user engagement is huge. Now let's say it's an app which they haven't used for a while. Suddenly it draws their attention, or they're searching for a recipe, say, and they already have an app which dishes out recipes, but they've not used it much. But when they do the search, they come to the app which has a video tutorial of it. So naturally that's the one they're going to click because they already have it. Now app developers can also encourage app installs. Now let's say there is an app which gives the same information. The user doesn't have it installed, but those apps will come up as suggestions. So the user can then go and install these apps to get that information directly. So till February, this feature was available only to Android Google searches, but now it's available for Google search on iOS devices, that is the iPhone and the iPad. If we see the stats also, the apps which are there on the iOS platform do really, really well. Now with this added dimension to it, the app developers are going to get a lot more ROI out of the whole thing because they will be able to engage their existing users far more deeply, and they will be able to get a lot of more app installs, because getting visibility only from ranking on the App Store is becoming more and more difficult, just like SEO is becoming tougher for websites. They are also facing a similar problem. So this gives them another avenue to gain visibility. So it's a very, very exciting thing, I think.
So this is completely organic.
Yes.
Yes, there's no paid form. Okay, so I'm hoping all the developers out there, the mobile developers out there are listening to us. Google has given you a platform to be ranked higher, much better. Basically, your apps get a visibility like no other if you're relevant enough. That's what Google App Indexing is doing in the mobile world today. Thank you so much, Monica, for joining us on this show and telling us all about mobile app indexing by Google.
Thanks a lot.
That was Monica talking about Google App Indexing and how mobile developers could benefit from it. And now you're going to listen to a show hosted by Manjunath.
Hi and welcome to the discussion point. This is where the best and the brightest students at WMA share their points of view. I'm your host CM Manjunath, and today's discussion is e-commerce businesses going mobile app only. Myntra, a leading clothing retailer, went app only mode, meaning no more website, just mobile app transactions. India's leading online retailer, Flipkart, is soon going to take their entire online store app only. Is that a good move or not? How will this impact the business and the customers? This and a whole lot more on this two-part discussion series with students from WMA Bangalore. Special thanks to Bharani for recording and editing the podcast. Okay, great. We have Aniket, who is the esports manager with a leading brand called Decathlon here in India. We have Deepak, who is also an esports manager with Decathlon. We have Pranav Krishna, who's a startup enthusiast. He's starting his own company soon, which is to do with music industry. Welcome, guys. And on the other side, we have Abhishek, who is the digital marketing manager from Decathlon. We have Vignesh, who is from Nalasha Solutions. And of course, we have Avik as well, who's been an employer, and is enthusiastic about digital marketing overall. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
So the discussion, of course, is about mobile apps. Would you like to start off, Aniket?
Yeah, so basically when we look at India, the rising number of people who are using smartphones and typically internet on smartphones is just going up like in a phenomenal rate. So what we can see is apps are mainly going to take over the internet and websites in the near future.
Okay.
And I think this is a very bold move by Myntra, and I think that it would work in their best interest.
Really? That's good. That's very good. So we have a view, first one, of course, and he's for Myntra's idea of going app only. So that's a very interesting comment. So thank you very much. Deepak?
Another good reason why Myntra is actually a mobile commerce app right now is because the trend which you see in 2007 there were the mobile to e-commerce ratio was 400 to 14,000 million users.
Okay.
This data is taken from Smart Insights, which was January 15th 2015, and in 2014 the mobile to desktop ratio was equal,
Okay.
and in 2015 the mobile users have increased, it's beaten the desktop users,
Okay.
which is why switching over to a mobile interface or a mobile commerce is a very good move.
Okay, so you think that that's a smart move too from Myntra's perspective. Very good, thank you. Pranav, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, completely support Myntra on actually going mobile only,
Okay.
and for that I have some numbers to quote. These numbers I got from Indian Market Research Bureau and the Internet and Mobile Association of India.
Okay.
Myntra has 80% of the traffic and 60% sales coming from mobile only. So and even Flipkart is going to follow suit. Flipkart are the leading e-commerce company in our country, and whatever Flipkart does, the other e-commerce companies have to follow because most probably the users will follow them. And this FIR Social actually compiled a report on the digital statistics of India that 13% of the population research on PC for the product, but 14% of the population purchase. But when it comes to mobile, 9% of the population research on mobile, and those 9% buy it on mobile itself, purchase on the mobile itself.
Wow, that's incredible. I totally agree. I think good points. One, the conversion rates are proven to be much higher on mobile. So good point brought up. Excellent. So you're saying that 80% and the 60% that you initially mentioned, 60% of them are on mobile. Is that what you mean with the internet services?
Yeah, 60% are sales
Yes.
they get from the mobile.
Yeah, so 60% of the conversion that happens out of the 80% of consumers that actually try or come to the website basically
Are from
are from mobile. That's awesome. That's good stats. So you think this is a really good smart
This is
mobile
really
Myntra again? Awesome. Okay. Abhishek, what are your thoughts?
So let's again start with numbers. I mean, referring to the same study which Pranav was talking about, the IMAI and IMRB survey. So I believe there are around 300 million internet users in India in June 2015, out of which 213 are on mobile. We're talking about 2 people out of 3 who are using the internet are using it on mobile, and the there's this gentleman called Mr. Amit Somani. He's very active on Twitter, and he's a partner at Angel Prime, which is one of the leading investors in the country. He says that Flipkart, Snapdeal, 75% plus of their traffic is on mobile. Zomato, which is the Indian version of Yelp, 85% traffic is on mobile. You have apps like Uber and Ola is like going crazy, both in terms of new users and valuation. WhatsApp has a monthly active user database of 100 million plus. So we all can figure out where the traffic is, and that's where we should put the money. And more interestingly, to look at this fact, the decision to move app only was not taken overnight. In fact, if you look at it, both Flipkart and Myntra shut down their mobile website first. They had their desktop website. Then what Myntra did was they shut down their desktop website. So obviously there might have been some insights, some sort of research analysis might have gone behind that. So it's not a decision which was taken overnight. Okay, let's go app only tomorrow. So I believe there is definitely a strategy at work here, and something which is pretty logical.
Awesome. So we are looking at only from the company perspective, right? So maybe we'll do a round two. We'll look at the kind of impact that will have on the consumers and the marketing industry for us professionals who are in it. But before we proceed, let's go ahead with Vignesh and his points.
Yeah, according to me, like Myntra, this decision was not a right one. As previously, like they said, like 40% and 60%. I agree, but Myntra, they are losing 40% of website users. So that will make a big impact for their sales also.
Okay.
So I feel that going through mobile application website is not a good idea.
Okay, and you're coming from the mindset of customers are from different places. Well, 60% could be from the mobile market. There's also the 40%. I mean, you think you might lose out, or Myntra might lose out on that 40%. That's your fear, right?
Yes, exactly. And one more thing, it's not that all mobile users are smartphone users. There are feature phone users, and there are people who wants to check on websites and they want to purchase through websites directly through desktop.
Yeah.
So Myntra will be losing all those customers.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very good. I mean, I'm sure you have some numbers to back up in terms of how many people have featured phones and stuff.
Around 800 million people who are using a featured phone in India.
Okay.
So the source is Economic Times, and the rated is 31st May 2015.
Okay, that's a big chunk of people that are still using featured phones, whom you fear may not have access to a smartphone with an internet connection and therefore no access to a retailer like Myntra, right?
Exactly.
That's your point. Okay, cool. Finally, we have Avik.
Yes, I do agree with what Vignesh has said.
Okay.
Yes. Going mobile app for Myntra or for that matter Flipkart also at this point of time is not a correct decision. That's what I personally feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because Indian customers, consumer behavior is somewhat different. They like to have flexibility. So taking out a medium and just making it a mobile friendly platform, I don't think it will serve the purpose immediately.
Okay.
Because if you all see as Vignesh has mentioned, the penetration of smartphones is far behind that of feature phones. So we are still a country where people in rural areas, they use as simple as a feature phone set to make their calls and all these things. They are not habituated to all this new modes of life or new modes of doing shopping.
Okay.
So following those footsteps, I think that going mobile app immediately is not a right idea. Over and above that, the internet speed is a big question. There are fluctuations in internet speed in India. It is not same everywhere. So payment failures could result in loss of business. So that is very important thing. So that's about me. So I think this is not the correct time. I think there's some more R&D should go into this before they introduce it.
That's very, very interesting. Thank you, Avik. So there are lots of people. We have the world's second largest population. What is the number, Vignesh?
It's 128 crores.
Yeah, that translates to 1.28 billion in terms of population numbers. Yeah, you heard that right. It's 1.28 billion in India alone. There is about 6.25% of people who actually use a smartphone. Isn't that interesting? While I see that the potential is there, I mean, we are looking at what 93.75% of the population still needs to get on the technology. Are we ready? That's the question that Avik poses. He thinks it's a move that is about to come, but not exactly the right timing, is his point of view. Interesting. There'll be 4 people against 2. Let's battle it out. Let's look at it from a consumer's perspective. With this kind of population we have, and a certain number of people using the smartphone with an internet connection, we need to consider many different factors, including the sales of your desktops, laptops versus the mobile, which includes the tablets. So what are your thoughts on this? Tell me, Aniket, what's your perspective from a consumer? Is this app really going to help him or her?
I think those who are already there using smartphones and who are buying online is going to be a lot more efficient in terms of accessibility. Is a lot quicker to access on a smartphone as compared to a desktop. You are carrying your phone with you all over the place, wherever you go. So using your phone and buying whatever you want from wherever is a lot easier. Another thing is payment options are much easier on your phone. You have your wallet where you've already saved all your details, and it is secure now with phones like the Samsung S6 and the iPhone, which have biometric scans for your wallet. Everything is becoming a lot more secure than the traditional website where you still have to enter a password. And so from the customer's perspective, things are really opening up. It is becoming a lot easier for the customer, but yet at the same time secure. So I think that...
Good you brought that up, Aniket, because with mobile, one of the major concerns was the security bit. But you actually covered with the examples that you did give. So, but still, there's a lot of ground to be covered in that area. I'm sure you will agree
right,
too. But overall, if you see, the consumers are actually comfortable using a mobile phone to really buy and send stuff online.
On this. Can I just please counter your point? Yeah, Aniket is right. It is getting better nowadays. R&D is strong. They're introducing measures in order to make it safe for the mobile to make a purchase, to make a shopping. But I personally feel that experience which a desktop users get in comparing a product, in viewing a product, getting a zoomed view, is far better than that of a mobile experience. The convenience is there. And as far as payment is concerned, there has been loss of businesses reported. You cannot quote a figure as of now, but definitely there has been cases wherein due to fluctuation in internet speed, people have not been able to make a purchase and they have lost out, and the company has lost out on the business.
Right.
So that is one area I think one needs to address with immediate effect. And of course, I personally will prefer a desktop whenever I am making a purchase, because it helps me to compare products, compare features. So that's how I think.
But I'm sure there will be people who will counter that, saying that we could compare products and services on a phone too.
Yeah.
But I did like the point that you brought about the speeds. Maybe India is not up there in terms of the speeds.
People are preparing apps, the developers and all, they're preparing apps to be used across platforms.
Yes.
For Windows Phone, for Android, for iOS. But there are applications which doesn't open. Say one is opening well in Android, but the guy who is using a Windows Phone is encountering problems.
Right.
So that is one aspect that needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay, good points brought up by Avik. And we have Abhishek, and he has his own points, please.
So I would just like to state hard facts here. As a marketer, what we've seen, without getting into numbers, we've seen our mobile traffic on Decathlon.in almost double over the last 2 years. The most interesting part of it was that the bigger cities, when we talk about bigger cities in India, we're talking about Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, you would see a significant proportion of desktop users. But when you talk about the B centers, we talk about Nashik, Ludhiana, and Aurangabad.
Tier 2, you mean?
Tier 2 and Tier 3. The number of internet users is almost, I would say, okay, maybe almost is an exaggeration, but to an extent it's comparable to what we get from, let's say, a Delhi. And 70% of the traffic is on mobile, which is a signal we cannot evade. And clearly Flipkart, let's say, all of us know about Flipkart, all of us know about Myntra, in the bigger cities. It doesn't really matter whether we are on the website or we are on the app. How to reach to a Nashik or a Ludhiana or an Aurangabad. You cannot have a mobile website, let's face it, a mobile website, we're talking about a desktop website versus an app here. A mobile website doesn't compare with either. It is not going to give you the same functionality and the same features. And so you can't open a desktop website on a mobile app. So the only option you have, therefore, is the app.
See, I'll tell you something, Abhishek. I do agree with you. Good points. I do agree with you. But the thing is that it also depends on the product. If it's a fashion portal like Myntra, so the kind of user experience that one would like to have on a bigger screen is different. There's far more advantages than than making a purchase through a mobile app. Don't you think so?
Again, for example, it's again a matter of convenience. For me, if I want to buy something, essentially I've got a very hectic schedule. I go to work at 9, I come back home by 8. I don't really want to switch on my desktop. If I need to buy something, I don't really want to spend a lot of time browsing through a lot of sites. Instead, while I'm let's say I'm traveling to work, I have got internet on my phone, so maybe I'll do a lot of my browsing there and probably complete the purchase. It's easier for me that way. Again, I'm an advanced internet user. But as I said, when we're talking about the B Central, if you've seen in India, there's a very popular campaign by a telecom provider called Idea. What they say is, the concept is taking internet to the masses. And both Flipkart and Myntra have realized that in India, if you work, any strategy which you build has to work for the masses, not for the classes.
Interesting. Very interesting points. One of the most important things that I really liked about your entire different points is the fact that how tier 2 and tier 3 cities and consumers from there are actually reaping the benefits. I love it. There are lots of raised hands here. I'd like to give Deepak the opportunity and then we'll take it.
Yeah, so as long as we are talking about user interface and about how it's better to look at a product on a big screen or a desktop, I would like to bring up a point. The number of inputs that you can give to a system or a desktop is probably a pointer, that is a mouse, or you use the keyboard. There's probably 2 inputs which you give through a system or a desktop. But through a phone, there are a number of ways in which you can interact with the phone. You can use gestures, you can rotate the screen, you can shake the device. So also you pinch the screen to zoom into a product and everything. So the number of inputs which you can give through a phone is better. So the user interface through a phone is much better and simple compared to a desktop.
So Avik, do you agree? I mean, he mentioned all the different features of a desktop or a laptop versus the mobile, which is very cool. I agree with you. But Avik, very explicitly mentioned that I'm able to view the images, zoom in and all that on your desktop. How does that connect with what he said now? What about others? Do you guys really feel comfortable actually zooming in on your mobile phone and checking out a t-shirt or a jeans pant, for example?
You don't mind at all. I think it's the same thing. You have good 1080p phones or even 4K displays now on your phones where you can view a product as clearly as you can on a laptop. Only problem you might have on a mobile device is you might not be able to see the entire image as clearly as you might on a laptop.
That's what I'm saying.
But with something like textiles, I'm sure what you really want to see is the material, and that can be zoomed in on a mobile phone. You can still see the exact kind of material that you are purchasing, which I think would be the biggest seller for that product.
Awesome. Abhishek wants to add something.
I'll bring a very interesting piece it's a nugget of information. I don't know how much of it is actually true. So if you read TechCrunch, so what they say is China makes almost all the smartphones in the world. All the testing on let's say 40k plus phones are done on 5-year-olds. So we're talking about a user interface and user interaction which is so simple that a 5-year-old can use it.
And they do.
Yes, so pretty much that gives the answers. And what is easier to use, a desktop or a mobile phone?
Absolutely, good points. Pranav, sorry.
Yeah, the why he said tier 2 and tier 3 cities is getting traffic as much as in Delhi is because mobiles are cheaper than laptops. People there can afford mobiles, and mobiles price going down. People will obviously buy mobile phones. Like for example, one of the best examples is Motorola actually partnered up with Flipkart to just sell their Moto E, Moto X and the Motorola phones went sky high. The sales were sky high for those phones. So you can see companies coming up with smartphones just for India at such cheap prices. The numbers suggest that obviously mobile users are going to go high.
Agreed. So Pranav is giving supporting facts to what Abhishek pointed out earlier about tier 2, tier 3 cities going online, buying stuff online as, or at least on par with the metros or the tier 1 cities. That's interesting. Vignesh has a point to add, please.
Yeah, according to me, like, all fingers are in different size. So it's like it's not that everyone are using 3G and 4G connections. There are people who use 2G internet. So when I use a 2G internet in a mobile phone, it takes a lot of time to load a single image. So that time, like people who prefer laptop or some other modem than using mobile phones. And I would like to add one more point, like it consumes a lot of internet data. For example, if I have 1 GB internet data, so by loading these images, this will alone, it will take more than 200, 300 data usage. And I need rest of data for my rest of the month, right? So I cannot keep recharging this every time. So I don't want to spend much of in my internet data only by looking at 1 or 2 products. Because if buying a product is like one time, if I buy a shirt today, I'll be buying my next shirt after a week, at least after a month. So it's not required for me every time.
Okay. Deepak has a point, please.
The specific target of people who you are talking about right now, who Vignesh was talking about right now, is a big community of people who are in the rural area, probably.
Right.
They are the ones who will probably have a 2G data plan and reduced internet connectivity. These guys will probably not be able to afford a laptop and an internet connection. So having a smartphone with a small internet connection will also help them in case it is an app or a shopping experience.
Okay. Deepak says something's better than nothing. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for part 2 of this 2-part discussion series. Until then, have a good one.
And those were some of the top stories in the digital marketing and the social media world from India. If you have queries or comments, you can leave a comment in the comments section right here below. You could also connect with us on Facebook as Web Marketing Academy, on Twitter as WMA India, and you could get in touch with me personally on MANASI, that's Mansi at webmarketingacademy.in. See you same time next week. Until then, this is Mansi signing off with a bye-bye.